Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for joining us here at our third and last preliminary debate. Just a reminder that the preliminary election is September 12th, so you have some time to research the candidates and to make your choices. My name is Mike Dobbs. I'm the moderator for this evening, and tonight we're going to be featuring, as you all know, the mayoral candidates. So, if you've missed a debate, please just go to Focus Springfield, either on Facebook or on YouTube, and the debates are there. This debate will be up there almost immediately after we conclude. Tonight, we're going to plan for about an hour. We're going to try to keep it within an hour. So, as you can see, we've got all of the mayoral candidates with us, going in alphabetical order. We got Dr. Ciampi, Justin Hurst, Jesse Lederman, Orlando Ramos, and Mayor Sarno. So, let me go over just a little bit of housekeeping here. Please do not applaud a candidate's answer because that just takes more time away from everyone. So you can hold your applause until the end of the session here. That would be great. Over there is our media panel. So, the young man at this end is Sean Alvord. He is the Student Senate President here at Western New England University. I hope you give me points for not to saying college just then. Next to him is Lauren LaBelle. She is the Springfield and Chicopee reporter for The Reminder. Next to her is Chris Pisano, which I'm sure all of you recognize. He is the anchor at Western Mass News. And next to him is Paul Tuthill from WAMC Radio. So the format tonight is pretty simple. I get to ask a question to start off, and then each one of our media panel will be asking 2 questions. So it's going to be ask them a question, ask them another question, and that will be over. There are no opening statements, no closing statements. We want to emphasize what the candidates are saying about the issues. And the executive director of Focus Springfield, Stephen Carey, right here. He's the timekeeper, and he is going to ring the bell when, there we go, at 15 seconds. So candidates, when you hear that, that means you have 15 seconds to wind it up. When it hits a minute, Steve will, there we go. He will assert himself with that ringer, so that's great. So I think that we've gone over all of the housekeeping that we needed to. So again, the candidates will have 1 minute to answer the question. So let's start off, and I get that privilege. Gentlemen, let's look into a little bit of history here. And that little bit of history is 17 years ago, 16 years ago, 17 years ago. Mayor Sarno, then on the city council, ran against Charlie Ryan. Mayor Sarno became mayor. He won that election. One of the things that was talked about a great deal during that election was the trash fee. And the trash fee, as you all know, was something that was imposed by the Finance Control Board. They were looking for ways to make Springfield solvent. It was a very difficult assignment. And I know because Mayor Sarno, for instance, as a city council president, served on the Finance Control Board. However, there are many people now who are questioning, considering the solvency of the city now, whether or not we still need the trash fee. So I'm going to do this alphabetical. And then, by the way, we just sort of, like the next question will be answered by Justin Hurst and the next one. So in other words, everyone gets a chance to be the first in answering a question here. So, Dr. Ciampi, do we still need a trash fee in the city of Springfield?
Well, we do have MGM here. We have a substantial amount of revenues coming into the city. And the question is whether or not we really need to keep the trash fee, or whether or not the trash fee can be reduced or eliminated altogether. And I think that if elected mayor, I would be most concerned with talking with the city councilors to determine where we're at and what makes economic sense. If we can reduce or eliminate that trash fee to give some economic relief to the taxpayers in our city, then I'm all for that.
I thank you much. Justin Hurst.
Thank you for the question. As mayor of Springfield, I will eliminate the trash fee. I also won't make promises that I can't fulfill. The way in which we will do that is currently right now, we have $68 million in surplus funding as of the end of FY 2022. We also have $50.2 million in reserves, and we have $41 million from an Eversource settlement money. We also have $15 million in MGM funds that we have not touched. And when you couple that with the marijuana money that has yet to be allocated, we have enough revenue coming in to eliminate the trash fee. In addition to that, during my first 30 days as mayor of Springfield, I will audit every department here in the city of Springfield, and we will identify all of the money that is being fraudulently spent and misused, and we will reallocate that to eliminate the trash fee, among other things.
Thank you. Jesse Leatherman.
Thank you, Mike, for the question. Let me start by saying we need to address affordability across the board in the city of Springfield, whether it's property taxes, water rates, rent, every single piece of our budget that impacts working families in the city of Springfield. And when it comes to assessing whether we need to levy a trash fee or not, I think that we have to look directly at our fiscal condition as a city. We know that we're in a stronger fiscal condition than we were previously, but we also know that our budget continues to have many sections that are rising by millions of dollars every single year when we look at health insurance, our pension obligation, and our other commitments that we have in the city of Springfield. So before we commit during a campaign to really essentially spend $5 million a year, we need to look at the entire picture. I won't make promises that I can't keep, but what I will do is the same thing I've done on the city council, which is constantly be looking for ways to address relief for residents.
Thank you. Orlando Ramos.
Thank you, Mike, for the question. The short answer to the question is no. I don't believe that there is still a need, excuse me, for a trash fee in the city of Springfield. I believe the total revenue that is generated from the trash fee is somewhere in the range of $3.2 million. And if you look at the way that the mayor has structured his budget, every year, at the end of the year, we have what is called free cash. But it is not free cash. This is an overpayment from the taxpayers on their property taxes. And I believe that that free cash, that overpayment, shall be given back to the taxpayers. And we can do that. You can use that money to either reduce or eliminate the trash fee. But it is also important to remember that this mayor was elected on the false promise of eliminating the trash fee. And 16 years later, we still have a trash fee. And so there are ways that we can do that, but we also need to focus on the rising, skyrocketing prices of property taxes here in the city of Springfield, which have risen 24% over the past 4 years. Water and sewer has gone up over 24% in the past 4 years. And so we need to do more to make it affordable for families here in the city of Springfield.
Mayor Sarno.
When I took over the city, we were on the brink of bankruptcy. And you had to make decisions at that point in time with landfills that had to be capped. And with the control board at the time, they said, go ahead and do it. Tell me how many cops, firefighters, how many libraries you're going to close. I wouldn't do that. I did lower the trash fee. Trash will probably cost $220, which would actually increase your taxes for the trash. We've been able, with the enterprise fund, which is nearly $4-point-something million, you're going to have to make up with that. You need sustainability. And we might be heading into a recession. That money can be completely gone very, very quickly. So I'll continue to make prudent fiscal decisions on it. But I did want to do that, but I was not going to lay off police, fire, shut libraries. We did lower it to expand library hours, working with the city council, by the way, but seniors pay $50, $90, large barrel, single stream recycling, and you have to be very careful with that, very, very careful with that.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Sean, you have the mic for the first question.
One of the greatest issues facing students in this city is safety and security. What are your plans to enhance safety on and around college campuses and in student-populated areas?
And that first answer will be from Justin Hurst.
Thank you. It's the same plan that I have for the entire city. One, we need a comprehensive plan to address gun violence here in the city of Springfield. That plan consists of making sure we have a full complement of police officers and getting those 70 officers that were short back on the force. In addition to that, we need to ensure that we have a police officer on every state and federal task force addressing gang, guns, and drugs here in the city of Springfield. And then we also need to make sure that we're flexing our officer shifts so that they work past 12 o'clock in the morning, and they also work on weekends. In addition to that, we need to get to some of the root causes of these issues addressing gun violence here in the city of Springfield. What we're seeing now is a culmination of 16 years of a lack of investment in our young people. So we need to invest in those organizations that are on the ground level doing the work, and then we need to assess whether they're effective. And then finally, we need to have a conversation with those individuals who are actually doing the crime to identify what are the causes and the reasons behind the violence here in the city of Springfield, and how can we assist.
Thank you, Justin. Jesse Letterman.
Our students are part of our broader community, and every single member of our community deserves to be safe in their home, in their neighborhoods, and at school. And that's why we need to address the root causes of crime and violence in our community. My public safety plan focuses on comprehensive intelligence gathering, resource sharing, and execution of that to intervene with individuals who are at risk of either committing a crime or becoming the victim of a crime. We know that there are identifiable risk patterns that we can come together around when we bring everybody to the table. And in communities that have really implemented programs to do so, we see a significant reduction in crime. We also have to focus on recruitment. We know that we're down a number of officers due to retirements and a lack of recruiting. We need to build pipelines directly to employment with the Springfield Police Department from our colleges and universities, as well as early on in our education system.
Thank you. Orlando Ramos.
So 1 minute is not nearly long enough to talk about public safety in the city of Springfield, but I do appreciate the question, and I'll give you the highlights to my public safety plan, because how we improve public safety in the college campus is by improving public safety overall in the city of Springfield. My public safety plan includes the hiring of 50 new police officers in year 1 at no cost to the taxpayers in the city of Springfield, using a federal program that President Biden put in place that covers 100% of the cost for the first year, 75% for the second year, 50% for the third year. Secondly, community policing. It's a model that's been proven to work here in the city of Springfield. Community policing works. We have police officers walking patrols and biking patrols in our communities. We knew their names, they knew our names, they knew our children's names. And we need to improve police-community relations with community policing. I also have a plan to get guns off the streets by creating a gun court here in the city of Springfield. Currently, we have over 300 gun cases in the city, more than double any other municipality in the Commonwealth. And we need to streamline these cases to get these criminals off the streets by creating a gun court.
Thank you, Orlando. Mayor Sarno.
Well, I get a kick out of my colleagues, State Representative Ramos and City Councilor Hurst and Letterman. In 2020, they defunded the police $1 million, overtime money, and also the training that they were going to do. We have a comprehensive plan. We work with our police department. I do constant academies, but we work with all our task force, which are on there: DEA, FBI, ATF, Sheriff's Department, District Attorney Anthony Gallooni. I'll tell you what the key thing here is. Besides the millions and millions of dollars that I fund for reentry programs, youth development, schools, education, you have the 2% of repeat violent criminal offenders that are constantly being let out of our jails. Those are the ones that are occurring the violent crimes, and we need to continue to push my legislation for bail reform. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Dr. Ciampi?
Yes, policing is certainly a very important element of public safety, but what we also have to deal with is the root causes of what's causing people to hurt other people. And there are a couple factors here. One is drug use, mental illness, rooted in mental illness, and poverty. What we need to do is, there's a fundamental flaw in the way that we're treating people that have substance dependency issues. And what we need to, when people come out of detox, a lot of these folks are worse than when they went in. What we need is, we need to have a system in place where we approach these folks holistically, because it's not just a problem with drug use. It's all the other cascade of problems that come along with the drug use. A lack of resilience, lack of coping skills. So we have to really be able to address that. And when folks are treated, they can't come back to the same location where they came from because they know the drug dealers and the drug dealers know them. You're setting these folks up for failure. So we have to think out of the box and find a different solution. If we do that, we'll
Okay,
reduce...
Doctor, the time. Thank you. All right, our next question is from Lauren LaBelle of The Reminder.
Police retention and recruitment has been a problem not only in Springfield, but across the country. In April, Police Superintendent Cheryl Clapprood shared in a Public Safety Committee meeting that the department was looking for an academy of 50, but less than 30 individuals were expected to graduate at the end of May. Why do you feel retention and recruitment is so low, and how would you improve this? Also, how can the city become competitive to attract police candidates?
Okay, Jesse Letterman has that first answer.
This is a great follow-up question to the answer that we just heard from Mayor Sarno, because the truth of the matter is the cut that was made in that budget partially was a redirection of overtime resources to training and was actually put on the agenda by Mayor Sarno himself, because we all recognized as leaders in the city of Springfield that we needed to do more to make sure that our officers had the resources, cultural competency, and ability to interact and earn the trust of the public, which is critical for public safety. The other piece of that cut was relative to money that was essentially snuck in to the police department budget to fund what we viewed and what I truly believe was an illegal lease of a piece of property by a campaign donor of the mayor's. That money didn't belong in that budget. It should have been in the facilities budget, and we cut it because it was a bad deal for the people of Springfield. If we commit to the reforms that we know we must implement, we can attract and retain more police recruits. And we are hearing from Mayor Sarno's own handpicked superintendent
Okay,
that she
Jesse.
can't recruit
Time.
under his leadership.
Time, thank you. Orlando Ramos, you're next.
So, police community relations, number one. We have to improve the relationship between the police and the community to show people that we do have a police department that we can be proud of. I will add to the comments that were made earlier regarding the shooting range that was cut. It was $800,000 for the shooting range that was cut. The deal that the mayor made was $800,000 a year for 16 years for a building that the owner pays $750,000 for. Now, you don't need to be a math major to know that that math doesn't add up. And so we did that to protect the taxpayers of the city of Springfield. We have to do better with police community relations in order to attract more police officers, but we also need to bring police officers into the school in a more positive way. When I was a kid, we used to have the DARE program in the Springfield Public Schools. Now when you see a police officer in a school, it's probably not for a good reason. It's probably not good news. So we need to bring police officers into the schools in a positive way to show our children and our students that this is a police department that we can be proud of.
Thank you, Orlando. Mayor Sarno.
We constantly run academies. We're constantly out there. My Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, Judy Crowell, Deputy Chief Rupert Daniels, on recruiting. It's been very difficult. Moms and dads do not want their individuals, sons or daughters, to become police officers. Where we used to have 1,200 to 1,500 taking the exam, now you're lucky to have 250. When you look at our police department, we reflect our community. We are at parity. And matter of fact, now have 2 deputy chiefs, African-American deputy chiefs, Larry Akers and Rupert Daniels, and we continue to do that. Education is the key. We go out there and recruit the community policing, the C3 policing, to build relationships. But I think this is something that has been a challenge throughout the United States of America.
Thank you. And now Dr. Shampi.
Sorry. I think that perception and reality seems to get blurred. And I think that one of the things that we can do is community policing is really important. How we do that's very important to project a positive image of law enforcement. There are 3 pillars in law enforcement that I think is really important in terms of developing greater genuine partnerships between the police and the residents to encourage people to look at the police as in a positive light. One is respect, professionalism, and courtesy. And those 3 pillars, I think, is very important to create a perception that, hey, you know, joining the police force is a real positive thing. And I think that's the route to go. It's more perceptual of an issue, I believe.
And Justin Hurst.
Thank you for the question. We need to change the culture, and it starts at the top. I mean, the mayor's last response was about as disingenuous as it gets, and it's reflective of the leadership that we have. It's also reflective of the police chief that we have in place now, who was on vacation while we had 6 homicides in the city of Springfield last week. While she was listening to the waves were crashing down on the city of Springfield. And so we know we need a new police chief here in the city of Springfield, one that lives here, one that actually values the residents, and one that is reflective of the residents here in the city of Springfield. In addition, we need to make sure that we're going to implement the consent decree with fidelity. If we're trying to change the culture, we can't go kicking and screaming with you know, trying to implement reforms here in the city of Springfield that we all know are necessary
And thank
and
you,
are the
Justin.
reasons why the DOJ is here in the first place.
All right. Our next question comes from Chris Pisano of Western Mass News.
Gentlemen, thanks for being here and your time tonight. With low housing inventory, rising interest rates, rising house prices and rents, and recent influxes of migrants, it's fair to say we are in the middle of an affordable housing crisis. So for those in Springfield who are having trouble keeping a roof over their heads, how do you propose increasing access to more affordable housing?
And the candidate that gets the first answer is Orlando Ramos.
Excuse me. So the reason why we're having this conversation is because of a simple term called supply and demand, right? We don't have enough supply to meet the demands here in the city and in the region. We've done everything that we could at the state level to improve the housing stock in the city and across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Just recently, we voted on a supplemental budget, which included a permanent increase to the housing development incentive program. We raised it tripled it actually, from $10 million to $30 million on a yearly basis with a one-time increase of $57 million. And we did that to increase the housing stock in communities like the city of Springfield. We also allocated more money for the RAF program in the city. I think we need to explore other avenues, such as city-funded housing vouchers to get people more housing in the city. But we also have to do better to create home ownership in the city of Springfield. And we also need to elect a mayor that supports affordable housing here in the city of Springfield. Let's remember that this mayor has been vehemently opposed to low-income housing here in the city of Springfield for the past 16 years.
Thank you, Orlando. Mayor Sarno.
Within the next 2 or 3 years, we'll have 600 more housing units on board, and that's across the board. Market rate housing, affordable housing, workforce development housing, and supportive housing. My track record has been very aggressive when it comes to first-time homebuyers. Many that reflect this community here, many that are minority owners on it. So 600 more units coming on board, and you can see what we've done, whether 31 Elm Court Square, the Firestone building up in Mason Square, the old Indian and Motorcycle building, Brookings, which was devastated during the tornado, workforce development, affordable housing. The track record is there. Another 600 housing units will come on board within the next 2 to 3 years as we continue to move forward. And it's also important that you have to be able to, we did it during the pandemic, millions and millions of dollars of wayfinders help people stay in their homes, pay their mortgages, pay their rents, pay their utilities, to keep them home with their families. And we're going to continue to give that support as we move forward.
Thank you, sir. Next, Dr. Champia.
Yes. Homelessness is a very, very big problem here in the city. I have hundreds of people that are living by the riverbank and in abandoned buildings, and it's very, very difficult to get them to be stabilized with their psychological needs if they do not have their basic needs being met. So one of the ways I think MHA, different organizations are getting grant money, we need to see if the federal grant money can be increased so that new buildings that are basically empty right now, that are abandoned, we can have these buildings fixed up and have energy sustainable energy devices in them to house these folks. So that's one of the issues that I think we need to deal with, and we need state and federal help in this area. The city can't do this all by itself.
Okay, Justin Hurst.
I agree with Dr. Chiampi. We certainly do need state and federal help, but the question is, what can we do right here in the city of Springfield? Number one, we can make sure we have a building department head who actually lives in the city of Springfield and understands the urgency of the housing needs here in the city. In addition to that, we need to make sure that we have a competent building department. Unfortunately, what's happening right now is that you have developers that are waiting months in order to get permits to move forward in terms of construction of new housing. In addition, those that want to rehab housing, they're waiting months not only to get permits, but also to get inspections. And we need to make sure that we have a full complement of building inspectors as well as code enforcement officers who will get some of these dilapidated properties back on the rolls. Right now, that's currently not happening. In addition, we need to make sure that we have a full complement of attorneys who can hold these big-time landlords accountable and get them to court immediately so that we don't have apartment after apartment that is not on the docket for rent.
Thank you, Justin. And Jesse Leatherman.
We are 11,000 units short of housing in our region. 600 over the next 3 years is a drop in the bucket. And furthermore, we're talking about Springfield's first-time homeownership program, but under this administration, more than 50% of our single-family houses have become owned by investors, LLCs, one of the largest percentages in the Commonwealth. So in the city of homes, instead of families building wealth through their homes and achieving that dream of homeownership, wealthy speculators are taking money out of our community. That's why on the city council, I introduced legislation to create the Springfield Housing Trust Fund, which, if utilized properly, can be an aggregator of that state, federal, and local resources to make sure that we are building the housing that we need in the years ahead. It's also why I wrote our short-term rental ordinance to make it less attractive for those developers to come into our city and buy up houses in residential neighborhoods to turn into mini hotels. This is one of those situations where we ask people to look not just at what we as candidates say we will do in the mayor's office, but what I've actually done in the office you've entrusted me with today.
Thank you. Our next question is from Paul Tuthill. Paul?
Yes, thank you, Mike. Thank you, candidates, for being here tonight. What plans do you have to attract more commercial development to Springfield that would bring new jobs and increase the commercial tax base?
And Mayor Sarno, this is your first answer.
Well, I think we brought a tremendous amount of development here into the city of Springfield. We work a number of public and private partnerships. We work very well with our state and federal officials on it, and you can see all the projects that have come in here, whether it was being able to get a big Y to come downtown, whether it's also able to bring in CRRC that has come in here, finishing up Union Station, which will be a catalyst for East-West Railway. And we've been also very cognizant of putting in a lot of funds, whether CDBG or ARPA funds, into small mom and pops, mid-size, larger businesses. We help them save jobs, we help them create more and more jobs, but we've been able to bring many developers, and we'll have future announcements coming in on some properties across the city and in our neighborhoods very shortly.
Thank you, Mayor. Dr. Ciampi?
Yes. Well, we need to attract tourism, more tourism here. It's very difficult to get a lot of companies to come in when they look at the demographics of the city. We need to be able to have a different way to bring people in. And I propose a carnival, an annual carnival event, which would be pretty great. Some of the leaders in Rio de Janeiro want to come to Springfield, and Springfield is in an ideal place between New York City and Boston. Just geographically, this would be a great place to have a carnival event. We would be getting tourists coming into the city with money, and that would stimulate the local economy. Now, from there, over every year, as it gets bigger and more popular, we would have spin-offs, and more industry, more businesses would be wanting to come into the city. So that's just one possibility right there.
Justin Hurst.
Thank you for the question. Before we're able to attract these big-time businesses, we need to make sure that we have crime under control here in the city of Springfield. In addition to that, We need to make sure that we're ensuring that all of our young people have a first-class education so that when these individuals graduate from high school, they're actually prepared to enter the workforce and be employable from some of these companies that may want to come in. In terms of the city and attracting tourism, we need to market our city more. You know, tomorrow we have the first Latino festival that is taking place on the riverfront that many people don't know about. And so when we talk about tourism and folks frequenting businesses here in the city of Springfield, we need to make sure that we're identifying what it is that we're doing well and promote it. And then the last thing I'll say is that we don't need to focus on the big fish that we're getting ready to do. Water, and we need to make sure that we're investing in businesses, which are the heartbeat here in the city of Springfield.
Jesse Lederman.
We need to refocus our economic development priorities away from extractive businesses and into industries that will come to Springfield, pay a living wage, and help build wealth for the people and their families that already call Springfield home. And that's why my economic development director won't sit in an office on Tapley Street and post RFPs on the city's website. They'll be traveling the Commonwealth and the country, selling the city of Springfield. We do have a lot going for us that should attract industry to our community, but we also need to be looking at what are those industries and how do we prepare our workforce for them. That's why on day one as mayor, I'll commission a study on emerging industries in the United States. When I act in a government capacity, I like to act with intention and data, and we need that information to better prepare and guide our economic development strategy in Springfield. We also need to become a destination. That's why I'm proposing creating the first municipal bank in the country and also municipal fiber internet to be an attraction for businesses that are looking at the IT sphere.
Orlando Ramos.
The city of Springfield has many nicknames. Among them, we've been known as the city of first. We used to be the home of innovation, the home of manufacturing, but somewhere along the line, we lost that identity. We become known more for police scandals than anything else. My goal as mayor is to make sure that we reclaim our identity as the city of first. And we can do that by investing in innovation here in the city of Springfield. We need to invest in our small businesses. Believe it or not, the biggest employer here in the city of Springfield is not MGM, it's not Mass Mutual, it's not Bay State Hospital. It's the small businesses. When you combine them, they employ more people than anyone else, and the city seems to forget that. And so as mayor, I will make sure that we don't forget about our mom and pop shops. But we also need to market the city a little bit better, and I will do that by creating the position of Chief Marketing Officer, CMO. The job of the Chief Marketing Officer will be to brand the city of Springfield and to market us regionally, nationally, and globally to make sure that everyone knows what the city of Springfield has to offer. And we also need to invest in making the city of Springfield a smart city. A smart city initiative includes a municipal app that I've been touting, a municipal broadband, and smart
Okay,
traffic
Orlando.
signals and crosswalks, et cetera.
Thank you. All right, the next question is from Sean.
Many students in the city of Springfield rely on public transportation as a means of transportation. How do you intend to improve public transportation in the city to make it more affordable and available?
Dr. Ciampi, you've got this first answer.
I think there should be a pass for students in the city because students are living hand to mouth. So I think that we should have a special fare for students here in the city that are full-time or even part-time. So that would help getting around, particularly for our students that are living off campus.
Justin Hurst?
Thank you. We need to work with the PVTA. You know, we need to make sure that we're making transportation affordable. We had an opportunity to do that when we received $123.9 million in ARPA funds. We proposed a resolution to the mayor of Springfield asking him to fund affordable transportation throughout the city, knowing that residents spend a third of their income on affordable transportation. I can only imagine what it is for students, what it is for our young people who are trying to get back and forth every day to high schools. When we rode the bus, we understood and had conversations with those same young people who were taking the bus from the Eastfield Mall down to Commerce. And then if they have to transfer, you can only imagine what that is costing them on a regular basis. So there's no excuse why we can't lead, and certainly, well, not even lead now, follow other cities like Worcester and Boston, and make sure that we have affordable transportation for all of our residents here in the city of Springfield, especially as we start thinking about food insecurity and access to full-service grocery stores.
Next with a question is Jesse Lederman.
Building a modern public transportation system in the city of Springfield is critical for us to move forward and really become the modern city that we're talking about here tonight. You know, when you look at the state of public transportation in the city of Springfield right now, to be quite honest with you, most of the folks who are relying upon it are doing so because they have no other choice. We know that most folks' goals in a city like Springfield is to obtain a vehicle because the transportation, try as they may, simply the service is not there. So individuals cannot reliably get from point A to point B. And with that, we've also seen rate increases over the different years because they've seen a lack of funding from the state. And listen, I've been down before the PVTA board advocating with riders against rate increases in the past, but we have to look at what the funding source is going to be. So we need a collaboration with the state legislature, the governor, as well as locally to put funds in and make sure that it is actually reliable and affordable to be used, not as a last resort, but as a true means of transportation. I was going to give you mine this time. I'm sorry.
Orlando Ramos.
Thank you. I do believe that at the very least, the PVTA should offer free routes in the city of Springfield. Routes that are well-traveled should be completely free to the public. And I think that there's a way that we can make that happen. Seniors in the city of Springfield should be able to afford affordable transportation and also access to affordable transportation, which includes the municipal app that I've been talking about. This municipal app will have government at your fingertips, and this includes, again, partnering with the PVTA to offer those routes and to be able to pay on your mobile app if you need to use this public transportation. But this also speaks to the overall affordability topic that we've been talking about. The city of Springfield has just become unaffordable altogether. Again, property taxes have gone up 24% over the past 4 years. Water and sewer, 24% over the past 4 years. And the mayor just hasn't done enough to make this city affordable for seniors who are living on a fixed income and low-income people here in our city.
Mayor Sarno.
Sustainability. Quantified. We work with the PVTA, and we've looked at this. We have structured routes, we have discounts that go across the board, but also when you keep doling out that money, it takes away from the investment in the system. So it must be sustainable, quantifiable, and structured, targeted on it. And we could also use more funding from the state, but you just can't make everything free, free, free. Because at the bottom line, you're going to have to pay the piper down the road, and those are balloon payments. Whether you're talking about bus trips, whether you're talking about property taxes, whether you're talking about water bills, you have to make the investments. The investments have to be made, and it must be sustainable, not pie-in-the-sky type activities that are going to put you in the hole 10 times moving forward.
All right, our next question is from Lauren LaBelle.
It has been determined that a new courthouse will be built in Springfield to replace the existing one at 50 State Street. In June, Governor Maura Healey announced that her administration would provide $106 million to begin the construction process. Where do you want to see the new courthouse, and why is this location the most viable option?
Justin Hurst would have the first answer.
First of all, I want to see the courthouse stay in Springfield. You know, the idea that we would tout one location in an all-or-nothing fashion puts us at jeopardy of losing a courthouse here in the city of Springfield to some of the other surrounding towns that were highlighted in that study. And so we know that a courthouse will bring thousands of jobs here in the city of Springfield. We also know that it'll have collateral impacts on businesses where those individuals who are working were frequent. We also know that just having a courthouse in general, there are a number of people who work in the courthouse. So it's gonna keep the jobs here in the city of Springfield, which is an absolute must. So I would prefer for it to stay in Springfield. If I had to choose a location in Springfield, I'd prefer for it to stay right where it's at. One thing I will tell you is that I'm not gonna appease rich developers and have it on the waterfront just to pad the pockets of those developers.
Jesse Lederman.
The Roderick Ireland Courthouse will be built in the city of Springfield, and I think I speak for us all when I say it's about time. We know that individuals who work in that courthouse, who are served by that courthouse, have been raising for many years the public health and safety challenges that exist there, and that's why I joined together with a coalition of city councilors to bring forward a resolution in 2021 calling for that courthouse to be demolished and a new courthouse to be constructed. And now that we're looking at what that construction is going to look like, what I've put forward and sent to DCAM is two suggestions. Number one, that we need to consider sites that are located closer to Union Station. And the reason for that is because with the development of this courthouse is also going to come significant spin-off development. And we need to begin developing more aggressively around Union Station as we prepare for East-West Rail. The second piece is to look at the possibility of combining its construction to build a public safety complex to include a new headquarters for the Springfield Police Department, which we know has been a need for some time. It is leading to us
And
struggling
thank
with
you,
accreditation.
Jesse. Orlando Ramos.
Thank you for the question. There's only one person up here that has had really a direct effect on the movement in the state, coming out with a study that indicated that the current location is the most preferred location for the rebuild of the court. My preference is the top location, which is the current location, because if we lose that location for a court, it would be devastating to the downtown area. That courthouse has been a lifeline for the downtown area during the daytime, and it will become somewhat of a ghost town if it goes away. And so my preference would be to rebuild in the current location. I will also say that I don't feel that the mayor of our city should be openly advocating for one of his biggest campaign donors to receive a multi-million-dollar contract from the state to build a courthouse on Riverfront. It's just not what a mayor should do, and I certainly would not favor
And
having
thank
a
you,
courthouse
Justin.
in the Riverfront.
Thank you, Orlando. Mayor Sarno.
Game changer. North Riverfront block. State-of-the-art courthouse. 700 parking spots. Public transportation, a stone's throws away at Union Station. A mini marina. Housing. We're all talking about housing. And the jobs that'll be created at that point in time. The old site, you don't know what you're going to get when you go down the ground there. And I want to thank Judge Payne, who's my key conduit to Judge Locke, and we speak all the time on it. But when you look upon that, when I talk to the courthouse employees, they want to move once. That site can get done within 3 or 4 years, not a decade. And I'd love to get my hands on that property because that could be economic development. I've created $5 billion of economic development under my tenure. We can create more. Let's get that site for economic development. But it answers all the questions, and it's a game changer for development in that North Block area.
And Dr. Ciampi.
I'm for riverfront development. I believe that the riverfront is one of our city's greatest resources, and we should really exploit that to the maximum. I think that having a facility close to Union Station would also be a good game changer as well for the city.
Thank you very much. Let's see, the next question is from Chris Pisano.
So we've mentioned a lot of issues tonight. What do you consider to be the biggest issue facing the residents and city of Springfield right now? And how would you go about solving and addressing that issue starting on day one?
Okay, the first answer goes to Jesse Letterman.
You know, I think there's so many different issues that we can talk about when we all discuss why we chose to run for mayor of the city of Springfield. But you know, what I'd like to take this time to discuss is really my vision for how local government should work. Because I think that one of the challenges we have in Springfield is that individuals in our community don't completely believe that local government can work for them. And it's because in so many cases, it hasn't been. We need a local government that's going to meet the needs of every single neighborhood. And I believe that the way to do that is by opening up the doors to City Hall and bringing everybody to the table. We need to address communication, fixing our 311 system, expanding it, making sure that individuals can reach out to City Hall and get a response and an answer to their question the first time. We need to make sure that our boards and commissions are appointed with individuals who are going to show up so our meetings aren't being canceled and business is being carried out. And we need a mayor that will directly engage with people on a regular basis, the way that I have through our working groups and our town hall meetings throughout my time on the city council.
Thank you. Orlando Ramos. You guys have got to work this out, you know.
Public safety, number one. Public safety, we want to keep our community safe. That's the number one issue that matters to the people of the city of Springfield. That's the number one issue that they're talking about. If you look at the statistics, the city of Springfield was actually safer prior to Dominic Sarno taking office. And we We just hit a record high for homicides in our city. 24 homicides in the city of Springfield, breaking the record of 2013, which was 22. We want to be number one in a lot of things. We don't want to be number one in crime. And so my public safety plan includes, number one, remember, the next mayor has the authority, will have the opportunity to appoint the next police superintendent. And so my goal is to do a national search to find the best and the brightest for that position. It may turn out that we have the best and the brightest within our ranks, but we won't know that unless we do a national search. So I will do a national search for our next superintendent. 50 new police officers in year one, community policing, police substations in high crime areas, partnering with the ATF and creating a gun corps in the city of Springfield to get guns off the streets so that we can reduce the crime in the city of Springfield and also prevent crime by investing in economic
thank you,
development
Orlando.
and mental health services.
Mayor Sarno.
Public safety will always remain my number one priority. I'm not going to allow criminals to rule our streets. And when you look upon it, everything that we've been able to put forward, the issue here is, besides the millions and millions of dollars that we invest for youth development in our schools, reentry programs, it's that 2%, the repeat violent criminal offenders. Under my tenure, violent crime has been down. Urban mayors are pulling their hair out right now, what is occurring. You see repeat violent criminal offenders on bracelets and monitors constantly being out there, let go by the courts, creating this havoc on our streets. I will continue to push my bail reform legislation through State Representative Angelo Pupolo. But on top of that, housing. I'll continue to build new schools. We're going to continue to financial stability, and we're going to also continue to make sure that we're able to provide education, continuing to get to the root causes. But public safety will remain my number one priority.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Ciampi.
Public safety is certainly the main issue here in the city of Springfield. And the roots of the problem is mental health, that people that are imbalanced, that are angry, that have a feeling of profound despair, they're the ones that have anger issues, and they're the ones most likely to lash out at other people in ways that can destroy people's lives. And so what we need to do is we need to change that. We need new pathways for resilience, because the common denominator here, whether it's folks that are using illicit substances or folks that are trafficking in guns and drugs, these folks have problems with resilience, with overcoming conflicts in their lives. And so we need to be able to address that by having holistic approaches to building resilience in these individuals.
And Justin Hurst.
It's obvious from everybody else that public safety is clearly the number one issue. But I also would like to add to that education also needs to be a top priority as well, especially when we start to talk about the root causes of gang and guns and drug violence here in the city of Springfield. We know that many of our schools and our high schools are not comparing to other schools across the state. We know that that also impacts those individual businesses that may want to come to the city of Springfield and invest. We also know that 33% of our young people are not receiving early education, and we know that if they do receive early education, that will put them on track to reading at grade level by third grade, which is absolutely crucial. In addition to that, we need to make sure that we're paying our teachers, our paraprofessionals, and our administrators here in the city of Springfield so that they will actually be retained. On top of that, our administrators, we're losing far too many, and we're also not gaining enough teachers. So we need an apprenticeship program here in the city of Springfield
And
to
thank you,
attract more
Justin.
teachers. Thank you.
Paul Tuthill.
Thank you. So, well, I guess as we wrap up tonight, I'll ask maybe a personal question. I'm curious as to whether you have a mentor or someone that you consider a role model in your life, and how has that person influenced you, and what's been the impact on your public service as a result?
Orlando Ramos, you get the first answer.
I wasn't prepared for that one, Paul. That's a good one.
That's
A
what I'm here
mentor.
for. You're welcome.
Yeah. I have several mentors. You know, I respect everyone in this city that has paved the way for me to be where I am today. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm a carpenter. I swung a hammer for a living, and I was happy. And I never imagined that I was going to run for public office. And the day that I met, and I'll tell you one person that has a big, the day that I met Jose Tosado, he was on city council at the time, was the day that I started to believe that maybe, you know what, maybe I can be an elected official myself, right? Because I was on the outside knocking on the door and begging our legislators to listen and change the way that we were doing, that the construction industry was operating. And so in that process, I made a lot of friends. So Seto Salo was one of those people who I met that has had a big influence on me over the years. But just everybody else, I mean, I saw Ana Andino outside earlier. I mean, she's someone who's been a pioneer for the Puerto Rican community here in the city of Springfield. I see my friend Jose Claudio in the crowd. He's another person that has paved the way for somebody like me to be up here, to even be considered to be the mayor of the city of Springfield. And so I thank everybody who has helped pave the way for me.
Thank you. Mayor Sarno.
First, I'm going to go to my mother and father, Italian immigrants that survived underground during the Nazi occupation of World War II, came here with much of nothing. Barbara and a seamstress had their own businesses. They taught me the value of respect, hard work ethic, and being able to deal with everyone moving forward. I've been lucky. I worked for some great people. Judge Mary Hurley, still the first and only female mayor in the city's of Springfield's history. DA Bill Bennett, and the late, great Ray Jordan, who was always there for me. But I go back to my mother and father. It starts from the home. The foundation, the roots are laid there of hard work ethic, being respectful. Don't forget where you come from. But I've been very lucky to work for those individuals, and they've given me sage advice that I've translated into being able to bring this city out of bankruptcy to the highest bond ratings in the city's history and moving forward on all fronts.
Thank you. Dr. Ciampi.
That was kind of a curveball question. I never really thought about it very much, but I would agree that my mother and father were really instrumental mentors and conveying to me the principles of fairness and decency. Those two principles, fairness and decency, and being decent with other people and being fair with other people. I think there's something good to say about that. But other than my mother and my father, I'd say Dr. Neil Postman at New York University was one of the transformational mentors in my life. And he had an EDD, and he always used to ask me, what's the big deal about education? And when he asked me, and I was in my 20s at the time, I said to him, to make money. And he said, wrong, try again. And I said, to have a better quality of life. And he said, no. And I said, okay, so what's the big deal about education anyway? And he said, survival. And so that always stuck with me. So how do we define education? And how do we use education as an instrument of socialization so that young people can transition to adulthood with the skills necessary to confront the stresses that they're inevitable into the future that they're going to be dealing with?
Justin Hurst.
Yeah, there are a number of people in my life who have had a significant impact on me. Number one is my father, who taught me to never give up and to work tirelessly on behalf of the people here in the city of Springfield and to be a voice of courage. My mother was a former educator who so many people looked up to and who made an impact on the school committee during my early formative years of life. Also, my sister, who was a defense attorney, fighting for those same individuals whose constitutional rights this current mayor has been looking to violate. My brother, who's an administrator here in the city of Springfield, who continues to impact our young people and make a difference. My wife, who was sitting next to him in the audience, who continues to keep our family together in spite of myself. You know, I look at my two young sons, you know, they're the reasons why I do it. They're in the public schools. They're the reason why I fight so hard. You know, they're the reasons why I'm here, putting everything on the line for the residents of Springfield, for my children, and for every other child here in the city of Springfield.
And Jesse?
I love this question because I always say that the story of Springfield is a story of all of us. And you're hearing a little bit of our story here tonight. You know, when I was 8 years old, my father passed away. And it was this community that really wrapped its arms around me. First and foremost, my mother, who's here tonight, was a night clerk at Bay State, figured out how to hold it together for her kids. But then community leaders who came along, embraced me, showed me the meaning of public service. People like the late E. Henry Twiggs, whose son Antonio is here supporting me tonight. People like Michael Ambusi, who made great change in the city of Springfield. Mentors like Ben Swan, who endorsed me in my first run for city council, laid the foundation for so many of us who have served in public service here today. And my friend and colleague on the city council, Vice President, Ward 3 City Councilor Melvin Edwards, who's here tonight. And I'm so grateful to have his mentorship and support over all of these years. You know, the truth is, none of us got here alone, and none of us can solve the problems of Springfield alone. But I have one great supporter who's with me every single day. We celebrate 5 years of marriage tomorrow, and that's my wife, Amelia Letterman. I love you. Happy anniversary.
Okay, I guess that's less expensive than buying you a card.
Goodbye,
I'm
Mike.
prepared. I'm prepared. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's right, halfback. Give him the bell.
Okay, so these gentlemen have sat here and been interrogated a bit, and the whole purpose of this is to give you additional information about what they want to do as mayor, what they've done as mayor, what they've done on the council, what they've done in the State House. So I'm hoping that all of you can listen with an open mind to everyone and turn out on September 12th to vote for the candidate of your choice. Focus Springfield really wants to thank Western New England University for hosting these 3 events. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our evening here. Please give the candidates a round of applause. Thank you very much.